There's an old saying, a river doesn't try to break a rock, it simply flows around it. It seeks the smoothest path. But how often do we fight against the flow of life? We push, we resist, we try with all our might to change something, and in the end, we are often just exhausted and disappointed. The Stoics, people who thought about life, had a simple but powerful thought about this. Don't force what shouldn't happen. Marcus Aurelius, a wise man, once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." This doesn't mean we always have to get rid of everything that bothers us. Rather, it means we can learn when to move on and when to let go, when to act and when it's better to accept things as they are. Imagine a man is lost in a dense forest. He gets scared and just starts running. But the faster he runs, the more he gets caught in branches and thorns. If he instead stops, takes a deep breath and looks around, he will discover the small paths between the trees, and he will find the exit. That's life too. When we try to keep everything under control, we often create even more pressure. But when we learn to accept things as they are, many things become easier. This is the art of moving forward without constantly fighting, to move on without getting lost. It's like swimming. If you swim with the current, you'll make more progress. If you swim against it, you'll get tired. Some doors open gently when the time is right. Others remain closed for good reason. The path to inner peace begins when we realize that not everything in life has to be forced. Let's explore together how the Stoics learned to find this balance, and how you too can learn to remain patient, strong and calm, and trust that many things will work themselves out over time. Lesson 1. The power of letting go. Imagine you're holding a rope and pulling hard. The more force you apply, the more it pulls back. But what happens when you let go? Suddenly the tension is gone. It becomes quiet. Nothing moves anymore. Life is similar. We often hold on to things, to people, to ideas, to dreams, and believe that they will only work if we try harder. But a wise man, Epictetus, reminded us, some things are within our control, others are not. The art is to recognize what we have control over and what we simply have to let go of. Letting go does not mean that we give up. It just means that we no longer cling to things that we cannot control. Imagine a farmer. He can't command the rain, but he sows the seeds, waters them, and hopes that nature will take care of the rest. In the same way, we can learn to let go of things when we cannot control them. This does not mean that we become indifferent or stop trying. It just means that we focus our power on what is truly within our control. A musician doesn't force a song to simply be there. He practices patiently, and the melody comes by itself. A sculptor does not fight against the stone. He observes it closely and works along the lines that the stone already shows. Imagine a river flowing through meadows and valleys. He doesn't push against the hills, he doesn't run against rocks. He simply follows the path the earth shows him. We too can learn not to resist everything, but to go with life. When we push in a direction that doesn't suit us, we tire ourselves out. We waste our energy on something we cannot change. Resistance makes us tired. Arguments make us sad. When we try to achieve everything by force, we often overlook the good opportunities that come quietly and quietly. Maybe a plan isn't working right now, to make room for something better. Perhaps a friendship ends to make room for a deeper connection. A mistake today can show us something that is important for our success tomorrow. The Stoics said, when one door closes, another opens. We must learn to recognize when we should act, and when we can just let things go. There is a time when you put seeds in the ground, and a time to wait quietly for them to grow. There are moments when you speak, and others when you prefer to listen. Trying to hold on to everything is like trying to carry water with our hands. The harder we press, the faster it runs away. But if we keep our hands open, the water just stays there, calm and clear. Think about where in your life you might be holding on too tightly to something. What are you afraid of when you let go? The truth is, what truly belongs to you will remain, and what doesn't belong to you, you can't hold on to forever. Trust the path that life has in store for you. Letting go doesn't mean you lose. It means that you will be free. Letting go creates space. Space for something new. Space for something that suits you better. If you notice that something is tense inside you, ask yourself, am I trying to force something? Take a deep breath. Lass locker. And watch as life slowly unfolds on its own, without any pressure, without any coercion. Lesson 2. In the flow of life, Lao Tzu, a very wise man who is often compared to the Stoic thinkers, once said, "If we let go, everything can sort itself out." The sea doesn't fight the wind, it moves with it. Trees don't brace themselves against a storm, they bend. And precisely because they bend, they don't break. They stay standing. The strongest things in life are not always those that can withstand everything, but those that can change and still remain. Nature shows us this. Those who are too hard break easily. Those who can move endure. A large oak tree that is not moving at all can break under great pressure, but a flexible willow that sways with the wind remains unharmed. The more we resist what happens in life, the more we hurt ourselves. But when we learn to go with life instead of constantly trying to change it, we find more peace. The thinker Seneca said, "Life leads those who are willing to go along with it and pulls the others along with it." If we are not prepared to live with what is happening, everything will only become more difficult. Changing something with force often contradicts the natural path. The Stoics had their own word for this, fati love. That means, love your destiny. By this they meant not just taking life as it is, but truly welcoming it. Even when things turn out differently than we expected. If something doesn't turn out the way we wanted, maybe it's not a mistake, but a new beginning. Imagine a river hitting a large rock. It doesn't crash into it, it simply flows past it. And over time, it even changes the land through which it flows. The stone becomes part of its path. It helps the river find a new direction. Or think of a captain on the open sea. If he tries to go against the wind, he will become exhausted and put himself in danger. But when he adjusts his sails to the wind, he moves on calmly and safely. The same wind that could have stopped him is now carrying him forward because he has learned how to handle it properly. It's the same with life. Sometimes it is better to stop fighting and find a way to deal with the changes. Sometimes it helps more to let yourself be guided rather than trying to control everything. There is great power in letting things take their natural course. That doesn't mean doing nothing. It just means that you can feel when it's time to do something, and when it's better to wait a moment. The best teachers, the most creative people, and the most balanced people know when to act, and when to stay calm. A river does not push its way through the landscape. He gently finds the path of least resistance and changes the country with patience. When we learn to trust life, we let go of the pressure and open ourselves to new paths. Letting something happen doesn't mean giving up. It means living in harmony with what is happening right now. Those who go with life learn patience, develop inner strength, and become wiser. These qualities help us to make the best of every situation, no matter where our path takes us. Also, think of a gardener. He doesn't pull on the plants to make them grow faster. He doesn't shout about the rain or the sun. He waters, cares, and lets nature work at its own pace. His success lies in the fact that he does not force growth, but understands it. When we try to control everything, we often hinder ourselves, but if we give things space, many things go more easily, and often better. This applies to many areas. Whether we want to achieve a goal, start a project, or learn something new, the people who succeed are often those who can adapt well. You recognize when it is time to change something, and because they don't stick to rigid plans, they often find better ways. The more flexible we are, the easier it is for us to discover the opportunities that await us, without any struggle, without any pressure. This idea also applies to our relationships, whether it is friendship or love. Connections that develop calmly and without pressure are usually the most durable. When we try to change someone or shape a relationship the way we would like it to be, difficulties often arise. But when we allow a relationship to grow naturally, space is created for trust, closeness, and true understanding. Especially in a romantic relationship, it is important that both partners are willing to grow together. When only one person tries to change the other or steer them in a certain direction, it often doesn't work out well. Real connection happens when you accept each other as you are and are willing to learn from each other. This also applies when you learn something new. Mastering a skill does not mean having to be able to do everything right away. It's about having fun learning. A musician doesn't become great overnight. He practices regularly and gets better over time. Even someone who learns a language cannot remember all the words right away. But through daily practice, confidence develops step by step. A programmer cannot build a perfect website in a single day. It takes patience and many attempts. If we remain open and give ourselves time, we will make progress without any stress. If we cling too tightly to a certain idea of life, it can easily lead to disappointment. But if we are willing to move and think differently, we can overcome difficulties without breaking down. Then life becomes not something we have to fight against, but something that carries us forward. When we realize this, we begin to see setbacks differently. A closed door does not mean the end. Perhaps it shows us a new path. A mistake, a rejection, or an unexpected detour can be exactly what gets us where we are meant to be. To practice this, you can ask yourself, where in my life am I holding on to something that isn't helping me? Am I trying to change something that perhaps cannot be changed? Am I waiting for something that isn't meant for me? The more we let go, the more space is created for new things. When we are willing to trust life, we discover paths we have not seen before. Those who go with the flow instead of fighting it move toward a life that is calmer, wiser, and more fulfilling. And the next time something doesn't go the way you wanted, ask yourself, what is life trying to show me right now? Maybe it's not about changing something, but about understanding something. Instead of fighting, try to learn. Instead of trying to control everything, see what happens when you open up and go along with it. Lesson 3. The wisdom of nature, the art of timing. Think about the seasons. Winter doesn't suddenly turn into spring. Fruits don't grow in a day. Everything in nature has its own rhythm. So why do we believe we need to accelerate our own growth? The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "Never rush. Do everything calmly and with a peaceful mind." Today, we often hear that you can only make progress if you make a special effort or want to achieve everything quickly. But real strength does not come from haste. It arises when we sense when the right moment has come to do something. Growth is not a race. It is a path that takes time. A tree does not grow faster just because it requires more sun or water. He takes what is there and develops in harmony with what surrounds him. If we act too hastily, we often harm ourselves. We get tired, lose our joy, and may not even get where we want to go. But if we trust that everything has its time, we can grow with more strength and ease. This idea applies to many areas of our lives, our goals, our work, and even our relationships. A company that tries to become successful too quickly can collapse under the pressure. An idea that is not allowed to mature can lose its power. Friendships and romantic relationships also take time. Real trust and closeness grows slowly, not overnight. Being patient doesn't mean doing nothing. Patience shows that you understand when to act and when it is better to wait. It helps us to move forward calmly and trust that the right thing will happen at the right time. When we learn to live at our own pace, we realize that every stage is important. Waiting is also part of the journey. It is often in these quiet times that the greatest change happens, even if we cannot see it immediately. A young artist doesn't become great overnight. A musician doesn't write a perfect song in one attempt. A writer needs many drafts to create a good book. Skills grow through daily practice, through small improvements, and through learning from mistakes. Every step, every experience helps to create something valuable. It's not just the destination that counts. The path to get there is also important. A life with meaning is created in the same way. Relationships that grow slowly are often stronger than those that start too quickly. A company that grows step by step, faces challenges and adapts, will last longer than one that wants too much too soon. Even our own desires, such as learning something new, taking better care of our bodies, or understanding our feelings better, require time, commitment, and patience. Being patient also helps us to see and appreciate the in-between times. We often only look at the next goal we want to achieve and do not realize where we are at the moment. But if we remain still for a moment, we realize that every step along the way is important. Just as fruits ripen slowly, the time of growth is also meaningful, even if you don't see the progress yet. This new way of thinking is important, especially in a world where everything has to happen quickly, and success is often the only thing that matters. We admire great successes, but we sometimes forget the subtle changes that happen in between. An artist is not only happy about the finished picture, but also about the path to it. For a musician, the many hours of practice are just as important as the concert. Every small step is part of the whole journey. Often we don't even notice that we are growing. It happens quietly and deep within us, like a seed that begins to germinate underground before we see anything. Even when there are setbacks, breaks, or difficult times, we learn something from them. These times help us become stronger and wiser, even if we don't understand it until later. When we learn to appreciate such moments, we stop constantly searching for the next big goal. We begin to find joy in development itself. Patience shows us that growth cannot be forced. It is something that comes from the heart. Nature does not rush, and yet everything happens in its own time. We too can trust our own path. The quiet moments are not empty. They are full of life. They are the core of our growth. The next time you get impatient, remember this: nature is in no hurry, and yet everything succeeds at exactly the right time. Trust the rhythm of your life. Focus your attention on small, clear steps instead of focusing on quick results. The more you allow things to unfold at their own pace, the stronger and more beautiful they become. Lesson 4. The balance between action and acceptance. Some people misunderstand Stoicism. They think it means doing nothing or simply enduring everything. But Stoic thinkers were very active. They participated in battles, led countries, and mastered difficult tasks. The difference was, they acted without inner pressure or despair. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Fulfill your task, but do not cling to the result." Imagine you draw a bow and shoot an arrow. You can aim well, pull the string, and let the arrow fly, but once it's released, you can no longer control what happens. The wind, the distance, or the movement of the target, none of that is in your control. Your responsibility is to do your best. Whatever happens after that, you have to let go. That's how life works. Growing is not a straight process. There are many curves. We often want things to work out immediately, whether in a project, in a friendship, or in our own development. But just as a tree takes many years to bear fruit, the most valuable things in life also take time. Strong connections, good ideas, and real successes come from perseverance and calm persistence. When we want things too quickly, they often lose their depth. When we let them mature slowly, they become strong and lasting. One of the most important life lessons is, trust the path. Don't try to force everything. When we want to control everything, internal pressure often arises. The more we hold on or push, the harder it becomes. This applies to our dreams, goals, and our inner growth. Sometimes the wisest thing we can do is step back a little and give things time. When we learn to let go of something, we open doors to new thoughts, different paths, and beautiful surprises. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving life space to develop naturally. Success comes when we can do both, make an effort and remain calm at the same time. A sculptor doesn't break the stone with force. He works carefully, following the lines that are already there. Even a musician or an artist cannot create ideas through pressure. They practice, stay open, and creativity comes to them. Every great work arises from patience, attention, and joy, not from coercion. It's the same with life. If we put too much pressure on ourselves, we stop growing. If we are patient and do not give up, we can show our best. Knowing when to act and when to wait is an important part of true long-term success. We see this principle everywhere in nature. A river doesn't force its way through. It flows patiently day after day, drop by drop. And yet it always finds a way. It crosses mountains, wins its way through valleys, and finally reaches the sea. Flowers don't open their blossoms because they're in a hurry. They bloom when the time is right. No leaf falls too soon, no sun rises before its time. Everything follows its own silent rhythm, and we humans, we belong to the same nature. We too have an inner beat, a rhythm of life that tells us when it's time to act and when it's better to wait. When we try to force this natural rhythm, we bring unrest into our lives. We fight against the current instead of swimming with it. But when we learn to trust the flow of life, we notice that many things happen more easily. Then the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities come along, not through pressure, but through openness and patience. Patience doesn't mean remaining idle. It means acting wisely, recognizing the right moment. Being patient means being strong. It requires inner courage not to demand immediate answers or results. It requires trust in life, in one's own path, in what may yet come. Many people confuse patience with weakness or passivity, but the opposite is true. Patience is a profound form of inner strength. It allows us to let things grow. It gives us space to breathe, to learn, and to make clear-sighted decisions. When we stop trying to control everything, we open ourselves to experiences we could never have planned. Some of the most beautiful surprises in life come when we let go. When we listen to our intuition, to what correct feels, paths often appear that were previously invisible. The greatest artists, philosophers, and thinkers of all time knew this. They achieved greatness not through pressure or coercion, but through dedication, perseverance, and the confidence that their work would bear fruit in due time. They didn't fight against life, but worked with it. The more we internalize this idea, that life should flow rather than being forced upon us, the more peaceful our everyday lives become. True wisdom is recognizing when we should act and when it's wiser to remain silent. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on our dreams. It means cooperating with life, not fighting it. Because when we constantly try to force something, we create tension in our body, in our mind, in our heart. But when we act with clarity and trust, solutions emerge that we would never have imagined. Some of the best things in life come to us right now because we stop hunting them. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means becoming free. Free from unnecessary pressure, free from the constant inner struggle. It means making peace with what is and making room for what may yet come. Ultimately, we find deep peace not through constant striving, but by accepting life as it is. When we honor and trust the natural process, our lives become calmer, our minds clearer, and our hearts lighter. Life doesn't have to be a constant struggle. It can be easy. It can flow. True happiness doesn't lie in controlling everything. It lies in dancing to the rhythm of life, with dedication, with patience, with trust. Give your best, yes, but let go of the fear of having to force everything. Trust that what is meant for you will find you, exactly when you are ready. Lesson 5. Relationships. You can't force people to stay. One of the hardest truths in life is that people, just like the weather, are always changing. Just as the cold winter gives way to the warm spring and autumn quietly heralds the arrival of winter, people also come into our lives and then leave again. A stoically minded person understands this and accepts it with calm and a clear heart. He doesn't ask anyone to stay when they're moving away. He doesn't cling to a love that won't return. The ancient thinker Seneca once said, "The wise man is at peace with himself." This peace comes from the fact that he knows that nothing in the world stays the same forever, not even relationships between people. When we hold on to people, even though they are no longer good for us, it hurts. Instead of fighting the ups and downs in relationships, it is better to accept them. Some people are only meant to be with us for a certain amount of time. They help us learn something or grow internally, even if we don't notice it at first. Such encounters can leave traces that stay with us for a lifetime, but when we try to hold on to them even though they want to dissolve, it often leads to sadness. The strongest connections are those where everything flows easily. They thrive on mutual respect, not on pressure or fear of losing someone. Wanting to hold on to someone at all costs is like sand in your hand. The harder you press, the faster it falls out. Just as rivers find their way or trees shed their leaves so that new ones can grow, relationships also change. When we fight against these changes, it usually hurts even more. A person with inner wisdom does not look back and does not cling to what is past. He accepts what is happening. We often think that certain people should stay with us forever, but inner growth, in ourselves and in relationships, begins when we understand that change is part of life. Some relationships flourish only for a short time. Others last for many years. But when we try to force something temporary to be permanent, we feel disappointed. The Stoic perspective shows us that clinging to what is passing away is not good for us. But when we learn to accept change, we feel freer and calmer. The deepest connections are formed when people are with us voluntarily, not because we hold them back. When we stop trying to control others and give them space to stay or go, our relationships become more genuine and loving. Good connections between people arise from trust, respect, and the desire to help each other grow. If someone really wants to stay in your life, they will do so, not because you're holding them back, but because they want it from their heart. Accepting this truth brings inner peace and shows that one has learned an important way of life. Relationships are like a garden. They need space to develop. If you water a flower too often, it can become sick. It's the same when you push a friendship or love too hard, it can break. If we give others the space to freely choose whether they want to be with us, a connection is created that can develop naturally. Sometimes people go different ways, not because they don't like us, but because their direction has changed. Understanding this shows that you don't feel less, but have deeply understood that everyone has to go their own way. When we look at our relationships with a grateful heart, rather than with a desire to hold on to them, we see more clearly what they mean to us. Every person we meet brings something special with them, be it joy, closeness, new perspectives, or inner growth. When we realize this, we learn to value every connection, no matter how long it lasts. This new perspective helps us enjoy the moment without fear of losing it. Letting go does not mean that we forget or that we don't care. It means that we lovingly acknowledge what was and welcome the new that is yet to come. There is a quiet strength in allowing life to unfold at its own pace, rather than forcing it into narrow ideas. When we stop forcing others into roles that don't suit them, we give them and ourselves back their freedom. This is how relationships are created that are honest and deep, not out of fear, but out of mutual appreciation. The wisest people know no connection is ever completely lost. Every encounter, every friendship, every love leaves traces in us. Even when our paths diverge, the experiences, insights, and growth that resulted from them remain alive within us. The depth of a relationship lies not in its length, but in the impressions it leaves on our hearts. When we let go of the need to control everything, we open our hearts to new paths. Then life can reward us in surprising ways. Perhaps we suddenly meet someone with whom we form an unexpected friendship. Perhaps an old connection is revived, not as it once was, but in a new, deeper way. When we don't cling desperately to people or moments, we can experience relationships changing, growing, or emerging anew, often when we least expect it. A healthy kind of inner distance helps us stay strong, even when things change. We learn that an end isn't always a loss, but sometimes the beginning of something new. Just as autumn gives way to winter without complaint and spring follows naturally, we too can learn to welcome life's transitions with an open heart. It's not always easy, but there's great power in this openness. When we cling to relationships out of fear, we often create more suffering than love. But when we are willing to embrace change, wisdom grows within us, the kind of wisdom that helps us live in peace. Letting go doesn't mean that we don't care about the person. Quite the opposite. It means respecting them enough to set them free when necessary. Love is not a possession. It's about seeing the other person for who they are. Know us, not in what we want to make of it. Letting go when the time is right is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of deep love and acceptance. For when we truly understand that nothing lasts forever, that everything changes, then we also find the courage to live with change. And in this courage lies our deepest peace. When we stop clinging to relationships and instead simply are grateful by allowing ourselves to experience them, we free ourselves from the fear of losing them. We live more consciously. We listen better. We see the beauty in the here and now. Regardless of how long a connection lasts, people come and go like the tides. Some stay for a while, others only for a moment. What's important is that we love those who choose to stay with us, and that we let go when someone has to move on. But, and this is important, sometimes letting go is incredibly difficult for us, especially when we've long felt like we're not truly allowed to be ourselves. Perhaps we sense that we want to break out of old patterns, but we can't, and we don't even know exactly why. Yet deep within us, something is holding us back. Fear. Fear is like a silent snake. It sneaks quietly into our hearts without us noticing. It whispers, "If you let go, you will be alone." Or, "You're not strong enough to go on without this." And so we continue to live, for days, months, sometimes years, as if poisoned. We function, but we no longer truly feel. We are there but not fully alive, but there is an antidote. The Stoics knew it, and modern psychology confirms it today. It is possible to free yourself from this inner poison. I know because I have walked this path myself. It begins with recognition, with the courage to look, and then, with small but clear steps, comes healing. If you're ready to free yourself from this fear, watch the video I linked in the first comment. It shows you how you can begin to reclaim your life. Not through struggle, but through clarity, through truth, and through trust in yourself. Lesson 6. Ambition without fear. In a world that constantly pushes us to achieve more, move faster, and never stand still, we easily lose our balance. We run as if we were in a race without knowing exactly where we're going. The ambition that drives us then no longer becomes a source of strength, but a source of stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. But the Stoics showed us a different path. For them, ambition wasn't a mad dash, but a conscious, calm march toward a meaningful goal. Marcus Aurelius, for example, didn't seek power for its own sake. He didn't seek the throne. The throne found him, and he was ready when the time came because he had prepared himself internally. His strength lay not in pushing, but in quiet growth. He showed us that true greatness comes when we align ourselves with our task with patience and clarity, not out of fear, but out of conviction. This kind of ambition is calm, steady, and deeply rooted. It not only moves us forward, but also allows us to grow internally. An old saying goes, "If you chase two rabbits, you catch neither." And that's exactly what many people experience today. They pursue 10 goals at once, jumping from one idea to the next without ever truly completing anything. But a calm mind, fully focused on one thing, can move mountains. When we pursue our dreams with inner peace and confidence, we give them the chance to grow in a healthy way, step by step, not at a frantic gallop. Fear-driven ambition may be faster, but it burns us up. It robs us of the joy of the journey and leaves us empty. True success, the kind that lasts, comes from persistence, not urgency. Whether you're starting a business, painting a picture, writing a book, or trying to understand yourself better, what matters is not how quickly you progress, but how deliberately you move. The greatest works in human history weren't created in haste. They were born in silence, in struggle, in repetition, in patient maturation. Artists who created masterpieces had no roadmap for rapid fame. Philosophers whose ideas still resonate today didn't seek applause. Inventors who changed the world made many mistakes, but they never stopped. They worked with love for their work, not out of fear of being too late. They understood the pathos, the mastery, the processist, the work. And the goal will come naturally if you don't rush after it. When we try to force success, we often lose the most beautiful part, the joy of doing it itself. We chase the result and forget that the deepest value lies not in the applause, but in the honest effort. The Stoics remind us, the true reward is not the prize, but the person we become along the way. When we learn to love the process, with all its ups and downs, then success becomes not only more likely, but also more meaningful. After all, what's the point of reaching a goal if we lose our joy, our peace, and our connection to ourselves along the way? It's not the trophy at the end that counts. It's the quiet strength we discover within ourselves as we grow. It's the knowledge I gave my best with clarity, with heart, with perseverance, and that, not fame, not fortune, is the true victory. It is in the quiet process of becoming that our character is formed, not in the great moments of glory, but in the quiet, unassuming moments of everyday life. It is these times when no one is looking, when we persevere, reflect, or take a small step forward, that solidify our innermost being. There is a fine line between ambition and fear. On the one hand, we are drawn by the pursuit of a better self, of fulfillment and growth. On the other, lurks the fear of failure, of not being enough, of falling behind. When we learn to combine determination with inner calm, a new form of strength emerges, a clear, peaceful ambition that builds us up rather than exhausts us. Imagine we're working toward a goal, be it a project, a dream, or personal growth. It's important to give our best, but without becoming dependent on the outcome. Because when we focus too much on the result, we often lose the joy of the act itself. True growth occurs when we work wholeheartedly while letting go of what is beyond our control. This way, our effort becomes a source of clarity and strength, not pressure and fear. The more we focus on what is within our control, our attitude, our discipline, our willingness to learn, the freer and more effective our steps become. A nice image for this is that of a farmer who plants a seed in the ground. He knows that this seed will one day grow into a plant, but only if he leaves it alone and takes good care of it. He doesn't dig it up every day to check whether it has sprouted. Instead, he trusts the natural rhythm. He waters, removes weeds, protects the field, and waits. This is exactly how we should deal with our ambition. Instead of living in constant impatience, we can learn to sow, nurture, and trust. The fruits come, not on command, but when the time is ripe. Just as a tree doesn't grow faster when you pull on its branches, our dreams can't be accelerated by force either. The Stoics remind us to find meaning in the effort itself. It's not just the big goal that counts, but every single moment in which we consciously act, learn, and strive. Every day in which we consistently adhere to our values counts. Every small step forward that perhaps goes unnoticed brings us closer to our inner self. Ambition shouldn't paralyze us, but should act like an inner compass, calm, focused, reliable. When we learn to channel our energy towards steady, meaningful steps instead of losing ourselves in hectic activity, the path becomes not only easier, but also more fulfilling. We discover that success isn't the result of a wild goose chase, but a byproduct of inner clarity and patience. Ultimately, life isn't about blindly pursuing a goal. It's about growing, maturing, and understanding along the way. Work with dedication, but not with inner compulsion. Be present, give your best, and leave the outcome to the natural course of events. Because on this journey, we discover not only what we can achieve, but more importantly, who we are. And in this realization lies a deeper fulfillment than in any applause, any reward, any external victory. Lesson 7. The Art of Adaptability. Life is full of surprises. Every day brings something new, sometimes beautiful experiences, sometimes difficult or unexpected moments. How we deal with these changes influences how we see and experience the world. The ancient Stoics knew that resisting change hurts, but if we learn to be flexible and adapt, we can overcome difficult times with courage and inner strength. When we cling too tightly to a particular path, we often encounter frustration and disappointment. But when we learn to embrace change, we often discover new possibilities we hadn't seen before. Change is nothing to be afraid of. It's a part of life and can even bring something good if we remain open to it. Adaptation doesn't mean giving up our beliefs. It means recognizing when it's important to stick with something and when it's better to take a different direction. A wise person doesn't rush blindly into every difficulty. They sense when it's time to wait, when it's good to act, and when a new path is necessary. If we remain stubborn, we easily get into unnecessary conflict, But if we remain open-minded, we can make wiser decisions at school, at work, in our friendships, or on our journey to learning more about ourselves. Those who are willing to embrace new things have a greater chance of being happy and successful. They don't waste energy fighting against things they can't change. Instead, they grow with the circumstances and find ways to thrive. The Roman thinker Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, but not over what happens outside. When you realize this, you become strong." This means we can't control everything that happens around us, but we can decide how we deal with it. Sometimes things change very quickly, and a plan that we have thought about for a long time suddenly no longer works. In such moments, it's important to pause, reflect, and refocus. This ability separates people who move forward from those who stagnate. When something doesn't work out, we can get angry. Or we can pause for a moment, think again, and take a different path. Imagine a person who owns their own business and suddenly runs into trouble. They don't give up on their dream. They change their plan, learn from their mistakes, and try again. Or a child who doesn't understand a difficult school subject. They don't just give up. They look for new ways, ask for help, and try different methods. Adaptation helps us make something good out of every situation, even if it seems difficult at first. It means responding to life as it changes, and then taking a new step that moves us forward. Change often feels uncomfortable. It can be confusing, frightening, or just plain exhausting. But this very discomfort is a sign that something is at work within us, that we are growing. Just as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, people also go through phases in which they feel confined, insecure, or between two worlds. If we try to avoid these phases, we remain stagnant. We cling to what is familiar, even if it no longer serves us well. But those who are willing to push through this discomfort open the door to something new, to a better, stronger version of themselves. Seneca, a wise Stoic thinker, said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind just as work strengthens the body." And that's exactly what we experience when we face challenges instead of running away from them. Every stumbling block on our path can help us grow internally, if we're willing to look closely. Difficulties teach us patience, perseverance, compassion, and clarity. The more often we welcome change instead of fearing it, the more natural it becomes to flow with it. We become more resilient, more flexible, and more internally free. An important step on this path is to let go of the illusion of complete control. Many people live with the thought that they can plan and control everything. The perfect job, the perfect life, the perfect relationships. But life isn't like clockwork. It's vibrant, wild, sometimes surprising, and that's precisely why it's so valuable. Trying to control every detail only makes us tired and anxious. Instead, we can learn to go through life with a clear heart and open hands. This means we have goals, we set ourselves in motion, but we remain open to the fact that the path may turn out differently than we imagined. When a door suddenly closes, we can pause and ask, what is this situation trying to show me? Perhaps a detour will lead us to a better destination. Perhaps we'll discover abilities within ourselves that we weren't previously aware of. The moment we stop resisting life, we begin to dance with it. Setbacks then transform into lessons. What previously weighed us down becomes a stepping stone. We don't have to do everything perfectly. We just have to be willing to learn and move on. The people who truly grow and become stronger aren't those who never fail. They're those who use every failure as an opportunity. They don't give up. They think anew. They reflect. They adapt their path. They evolve because they understand that change is not an enemy, but a teacher. And sometimes letting go of old plans leads to something greater that we couldn't have previously foreseen. The Stoics reminded us that true inner strength lies not in resistance, but in the ability to flow with life. Resilience doesn't mean becoming hard like a rock. It means becoming flexible like bamboo, which sways in the wind but doesn't break. When we learn this, a deep serenity arises within us. We realize that we don't need to know or control everything to move forward. Perhaps you're feeling inner resistance in an area of your life right now. Perhaps you wish something were different than it is. Ask yourself, am I open to change? Or am I clinging to an idea? Then try gently letting go of that idea, just a little, and observe what happens. Often that's when a new path opens up that we couldn't see before. The ability to adapt is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It doesn't protect us from life, but it gives us the strength to move through it courageously and calmly, even when the path ahead is still unclear. And that's precisely where true growth lies. Lesson 8. The strength in silence. In a world that constantly tells us to be busy, to do things and to achieve goals, silence is often forgotten. Everywhere we hear that we should be faster, better, and more successful. We are taught that we must constantly be taking action to move forward. But the Stoics knew, true strength does not come from constant movement, but from the calm within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "No place is more peaceful than your own soul." These words remind us that we can find deep peace when we become still, reflect, and listen within ourselves. In such moments, we see more clearly what's truly important to us. We stop being carried away by external distractions and begin to live life more consciously. When we act too quickly or force solutions, we often get into trouble. When we are hectic, we easily lose track and make decisions that we may later regret. But when we allow ourselves to become still and breathe deeply, our inner being calms down, similar to water that stops moving. When water is calm, it becomes clear. Likewise, our thinking becomes clearer when we don't allow ourselves to be disturbed. Many of the wisest people in history knew this. They used quiet moments not to withdraw, but to better understand themselves and see the world with new eyes. True insight comes not from the noise outside, but from the quiet within. Today, we are often surrounded by noise, news, conversations, media, and the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But the Stoics taught that true understanding grows in silence. When we regularly create a quiet space, we hear our inner voice more clearly. Then it becomes easier to respond to life with patience and courage. In these quiet moments, we realize what we really want, what scares us, and what drives us. Only when we are calm within can we hear our own thoughts well, bring order to our inner selves, and recognize the next step. Seneca, a famous Stoic, once said, "We suffer more from our imaginations than from what actually happens." This is an important insight. Much of what weighs on us originates in our minds. We often imagine bad things that aren't real, and this makes us feel sad or anxious. But silence gives us distance from these thoughts. It helps us to recognize what is really happening and what we are only imagining. When we cultivate this inner peace, we gain more control over our thinking. Then we are less likely to be carried away by worries and protect ourselves from unnecessary suffering. The ability to remain calm and focused on oneself without distraction or haste is something that troubles many people. Some believe that stillness means doing nothing. They associate rest with stagnation. But true stillness doesn't mean being inactive. It means staying awake and alert in the moment. When we are calm, we don't waste time. We prepare ourselves internally to act more wisely. A person with inner clarity doesn't speak quickly or act rashly. He or she listens, reflects, and speaks with purpose. This is the power of silence. When we wait a moment, we give ourselves the opportunity to act with more feeling and foresight. It is precisely this brief pause before making a decision that can prevent us from making mistakes caused by hecticness or uncertainty. Nature shows us in its own way how powerful silence is. Mountains stand firm, even when strong winds blow around them. The moon follows its own rhythm, always calm and steady. The waves in the sea move with the changing tides. They never rush but follow the natural tide of the moon. Even wild animals know when to stay still. They conserve their strength for the right moment. We too are strong when we sense when it is time to act, and when it is better to remain silent. Acting without thinking makes us tired, but those who wait for the right moment can act with courage and clarity. Practicing stillness means resisting the inner urge to fill every moment with something. In our noisy world, many believe that we can only achieve something if we are always busy. But often we make the biggest steps when we calm down and take a break. When we stop trying to control everything, we often find that the answers we were looking for appear on their own. This is an important idea of Stoic philosophy. It is not how much we do that counts, but how wisely we act. It is in moments of calm, reflection, and inner silence that our true potential unfolds, not in the race to achieve something. When we learn to sit quietly, even for just a few minutes a day, our inner strength increases. We learn to be patient and to look closely without immediately judging. These quiet minutes not only help us better understand our thoughts, they also deepen our connection with other people. When we listen without responding immediately, a special closeness develops. The most valuable relationships do not grow through constant activity or many words, but through genuine attention and quiet time together. When we begin to incorporate silence into our conversations and encounters, something special happens. We begin to sense that true closeness doesn't depend on many words. Often it's precisely those silent moments in which we feel closest to another person, a glance, a shared silence, sitting quietly together without haste. In such moments, a connection is formed that goes deeper than any spoken word. Silence is not a deficiency, but a form of presence. Those who listen instead of interrupting, who pause instead of responding immediately, demonstrate true mindfulness, and that is precisely what creates trust and depth. Take a few minutes each day to immerse yourself in this stillness. Sit in a quiet place, put your phone aside, close your eyes, and breathe gently. Nothing special needs to happen. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Resist the urge to analyze or judge anything. Over time, your mind will calm down, like a lake whose waves settle. This simple practice brings clarity when the world is noisy and peace when life seems hectic. From this inner stillness arises a new strength, the strength to see more clearly and act with more patience. The Stoics reminded us again and again, force nothing, flow like water. Water doesn't find its way by forcing its way through rocks, but by adapting, patiently, gently, yet unstoppable. This is how we should go through life too. Not with constant tension and control, but with wisdom and trust. Trying to force everything makes us hard and tired. But those who learn to go with the flow of life develop a strength that is quiet, but deep. Just as a river finds its way through mountains and valleys, we too can find our way, if we are willing to move instead of struggle. Imagine a tree in the wind. It doesn't brave the storm with rigidity, but bends, lets go, and still stands upright afterwards. Its strength lies in its flexibility. We too can be soft without being weak. We can adapt without losing ourselves. Those who don't constantly oppose life but accept it as it comes often discover new possibilities, paths that were previously invisible. The more we stop clinging, the more life begins to unfold in its own, sometimes surprising way. It's not about being inactive. It's about working with life, not against it. Epictetus once said, "Use the best of what is within your power and accept the rest." These words remind us to take responsibility, but also to let go of what we cannot change. When we accept that not everything is in our hands, inner peace arises. Instead of losing ourselves in worry or clinging to rigid plans, we can invest our energy in what truly matters: our attitude, our decisions, our actions in the here and now. True power isn't revealed in constant doing, but in knowing when it's time to act, and when it's wiser to let go. Life has its own rhythm. When we stop trying to control everything, space opens up for surprises, for new opportunities, for growth we never even imagined. Trust the process. Trust that things often fall into place precisely when we stop trying to force them. Ask yourself today, what am I desperately trying to hold on to? What would happen if I let go and simply trusted life? Perhaps you would realize that letting go doesn't represent loss, but freedom. Perhaps right there in the flow of life lies the peace you've been seeking.